Hi all, Adi here from Haunts and Jaunts. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Today I'm at Brompton Cemetery in West London. Now, it's one of the magnificent 7 cemeteries that was built in Victorian times. There's over 200,000 people buried here, and there is catacombs. There's 500 people buried in the catacombs, although there's a lot of room for more. Now, they only open the catacombs twice a year, the Friends of Brompton Cemetery. We've got tickets, so hopefully I'll be able to film, but yeah, let's go. Brompton is one of 7 grand garden cemeteries that opened around London between 1833 and 1841. The city was growing so quickly that there was barely enough room for the living, let alone the dead. Its churchyards were overflowing, so the government decided the dead should be buried in the countryside. The market gardens in the hamlet of Brompton were ideal, although that's hard to believe it was countryside when you see how built up the area is nowadays. The cemetery back then was a private business when it opened in 1840. To make money for the shareholders, it had to be a desirable place to be buried. So the architect used classical buildings and a formal layout to make this long, level site much more interesting. The new garden cemeteries offered peaceful repose for London's dead. They also became very popular with the living, who came here to escape the overcrowded city. Cemeteries were respectable places for people to visit in Victorian times, and even single ladies were allowed to enjoy a stroll here. This is such a beautiful cemetery. It really is. There's so much wildlife, but there always is in these cemeteries. There's some really interesting carvings on some of the graves. This one, let me show you, it's like a mask. I'm gonna try and read it for you. Let me spin you around. Can you see the mask there? Green be the turf above the friend of my early days. Tomorrow was to admire thee, none named thee but in praise. But you can't read whose grave it was. Beautiful. There's a huge Celtic cross hidden amongst the grass there. We're going to try and see that. Back of this is plain, but the front of it is all carved. I'm talking about this huge Celtic cross, but if we go in and try and get round, it's very difficult. It's so overgrown. If you can see the front. There's a very interesting book that I read many years ago by Catherine Arnold, and it's called Necropolis, London and Its Dead. If you're interested in how Victorian London dealt with funerals and with its burgeoning cemeteries, it's a fantastic read. Highly recommend that one. Brompton is the most central of all the magnificent 7 cemeteries. It's at the western edge of Kensington, and it's very easy to get here by public transport. There's a tube and train station just a couple of minutes walk. The layout is intentionally formal and you're not likely to get lost. though the edges are well clothed in trees, shrubs and grasses. The Royal Park's Brompton Cemetery Guide lists 50 different distinct trees and plots them on a plan. Within the strong grid plan, there's fine memorials and themed groups are scattered. You'll see that when we go into the colonnades, where all the crosses are grouped together. You can find Victoria Cross holders, memorials to the Brigade of Guards and the Chelsea pensioners. Some 2,600 Chelsea pensioners were interred during the second half of the 19th century. There's many monuments of sculptural merit. This is the Brigade of Guards monument, and it was erected in 1889. It's at the heart of the cemetery's infantry section. The elegant cross guards a field of white headstones marking some of the thousands of military burials here. The 4 brass field guns that once stood around it were moved in the Second World War, and some believe that the guns were sent back onto the front lines. So those figures that I gave you are actually the Commonwealth war graves. Obviously, I'm just giving you a very, very brief overview of the cemetery because there's over 35,000 monuments to explore in Brompton. But you can, if you want to, go on a guided lead walk, and then that can give you some more information of there's a particular famous grave that you want to find. It's quite easy to find out the information online. Wow. So this is the colonnades, and I believe the catacombs are actually under here, but wow. Let's have a little walk up here. And this, guys, is the Great Circle. It was designed to be an open lawn, but you can just see it's filled with thousands of crosses, all grouped together. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to be going down into the catacombs on a tour. They only open up twice a year. You don't see anything grim, whatever, but it is quite dark and you might find it a little bit scary. Another interesting one. Look at this one. Okay. Is that a wolf or a dog? Oh, it's rosemary planted there, which is really strong. It's quite pleasant, actually. Can you smell it? Smell of vision.
Smells so double.
One of the volunteers was just saying that the steps down into the catacombs, when it gets wet, they're treacherous. So you have to be really, really careful. They've got a handrail on there, but it must have been really difficult when they're carrying coffins down there because the steps are, I don't know if you saw me in the video, it was like, they're really like steep, but maybe that was a blessing when you're carrying a coffin down. Who knows?
Admire the gate. First of all, I'm Peter, so I'll be your guide today. One thing to note is that these are real people. It's a criminal offence under the Burial Act of 1857 to disturb remains. And secondly, also it's consecrated ground here, so technically it falls under the jurisdiction of the Church of England. So you'd need permission from the Church of England to touch anything as well. Some of the things, like there's some wreaths that have sat there for hundreds of years. If you touch them, they'll just crumble into dust, and you can actually see somewhere I think people have done that. So please don't touch anything. Otherwise, without further ado, I'm just going to make a couple notes on the door itself. It's full of symbolism. It's sort of a bit of a melange of symbolism. You've got the upside down torch, so that's symbolizing a life extinguished. Very common in cemeteries. You've got snakes, very common because they shed their skin. It's sort of a symbol of rebirth. You've got the Ouroboros, so that's the snake biting its own tail, symbolizing the sort of everlasting cycle of death and rebirth. And then you've got the hourglass with the wings on it. So any guesses what that's trying to say?
Time flies.
Time flies. Yes, exactly. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to go in. I'm going to turn off the lights, and you are going to turn left, and you're going to go down to the sort of far end, the last coffin. There's a bit of an area where you can stand. Take your time. This is the main moment to soak in the atmosphere as the Victorians would have done in candlelight. Yeah. So. So the history of catacombs goes back to probably the man-made ones anyways, goes back to Roman times. So maybe 2nd century, I think there's San Sebastiano is the earliest man-made catacomb. These ones were built 1840 to 1860. And then natural catacombs, so if you're buried just laid on ledges in natural forming caves, go back much further than that, and who knows how long really. But the interesting question I think about these catacombs is, in the 1840s, why did they build them? What was the business rationale in London to build some fairly, what would turn out to be quite damp catacombs? And the acronym, or the letters you need to remember are security, sentiment, and status. So just remember those 3 S's. So security, everyone in the Victorian era, there was a bit of a craze, or a hysteria almost, about body snatchers. So people would dig you up and then sell your remains to science and for study. And this was very prevalent pre-1840, but really, by the time that these were built, it was much less common, but there was still a big worry about that. So this cemetery was built in a locked compound. It's secure, it has security guards, it has a gate, and then here you're in a locked compound within a locked compound, so your body will be extra secure. Status, obviously if you're a well-to-do person, the nicest thing that you could have is your own mausoleum. So you'd be like the royal family and you'd be being interred into your own mausoleum. But that was extraordinarily expensive. So you get one key per family member that has been interred. So that the family would get one key. And otherwise, above in the colonnades, there would be plaques. So other people who wanted to sort of come and visit and remember could stay at the plaque. But otherwise, you have to arrange for the family to get a key. So what do you think of the state of the catacombs? Is my question. It's a testing question. What was your reaction sort of coming in here? Was it what you expected?
Yeah, to be honest, it was. Yeah.
So I think there's usually two broad categories of reaction to the catacombs. One, I think people come because they sort of like the idea of a bit of a Gothic thrill in a way.
Fascinating. And we've just found a mushroom.
Women as well, but yes, a lot of
Catacomb mushroom. So a huge thank you to our guide. That was a really, really interesting visit in the catacombs. Another one ticked off the list. The Friends of Brompton Cemetery do that twice a year, in May and in September. As you can imagine, it's extremely popular. So if you are interested in doing a tour of the catacombs or one of the other many interesting walks and tours they do of the cemetery, then check out the Friends of Brompton website. The cemetery is open every day at 7 a.m, but it's worth checking the notice boards when you go in or the website to check what time they're closing. I loved this vault. Look at the craftsmanship in that. I mean, look at the feet. There's even nails. Absolutely beautiful. So you can walk through here. You can ride your bike as long as you stay on the cycled route, and you can bring your dog as long as you stick to the dog walking route and keep them on a lead. I walked up here because there was a gap and it was a Commonwealth war grave. I do love how the Commission looks after all the Commonwealth war graves. And this one was very unusual headstone. Never seen anything like that before. And look at the craftsmanship on that. Beautiful. There is visitor information at the meeting place, which is at the North Lodge. There's also toilets there and a cafe. The much-loved author Beatrix Potter also has a connection to Brompton Cemetery. She lived in Kensington as a child and only went to the Lake District as an adult. It's claimed that several of the characters in her stories can be traced from cemetery records, and the walls themselves could have been an inspiration for Mr. McGregor's walled garden, which Peter Rabbit penetrated with temerity. You can easily spot the headstone that bears the name Nutkins, which is the name of one of the squirrels, although I haven't found it. Maybe another visit. And this is, I think, the most lavish tomb. Not the most grand, but very lavish. And it's that of Frederick Leyland. And he was a Victorian shipping magnate, and he had a taste for fine art and drama. This is one of the graves that I wanted to see. Well, it's not a grave. It's a tomb. And some people think that's actually a time machine. So this is Hannah Courtney's tomb. Some people think it's a time machine. There's actually no plans that exist for this, so they don't know the actual layout of it. And also another mystery is that the key is missing. So the key to gain access to it is missing. So no one's been inside for 120 years. Hannah Courtoy, I believe, married a much older gentleman, excuse the plane noise, and when he passed away, he left her his fortune. And when she passed away, her and the two daughters were interred here. Local legends say that its style, its mysterious style, looks like a time machine. The key to the front door is also supposed to be missing. So no one's actually gained entry for 120 years. I have seen a video on here where somebody put like a camera underneath the door, and it is in fact completely empty. So are they actually buried down deep below? As I say, no plans actually exist, so they don't know the layout of it, but maybe that's actually entry into the mausoleum underneath. Always an interesting story. And this very grand mausoleum is that of James MacDonald, who was born in Scotland, but he was one of the founders of Standard Oil of America. Deeds, not words. Emmeline Pankhurst's grave, the suffragette leader who campaigned fiercely for women's rights to vote. She was imprisoned for her beliefs. She saw some women given the vote in 1918, but unfortunately she died just before equal rights for voting were introduced. I've just got back home and realised that I never did an outro. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you for the next one.